I want to talk a little bit about the importance of having a director on set. Whether the production is small, medium, or large, there's always the need for that one point of contact, that one person overseeing everything. You'll often find that you'll be on a set and things can get a little bit overwhelming if there's not one voice who's the ultimate authority. And a problem I've seen come up is, and this is usually on smaller productions because by the time you get to the medium and large ones, it's kind of ironed itself out. But a lot of small productions have a director, but they're working with other people who are kind of at that same level. Usually they have similar skills, maybe they're friends or close acquaintances, maybe it's even family members or just some person that you caught off the street. But whatever the case might be, oftentimes on these smaller productions, you'll get a lot of people chiming in and offering their input because let's face it, we all have our own perspectives and our own opinions that we think are valuable and we want to offer up as suggestions. But what can happen on these sets is that it can be overwhelming for the other people who are receiving that feedback. So it's happened numerous times on smaller sets that I've been on where people are offering up their advice, but vocally and loudly to talent or to other people, to producers, whoever it might be, and it really creates a sense of chaos and disorder if it's not all being funneled through the director or the person who's the point person, the person in charge, who is supposed to take all that information and disseminate it out to who needs to hear it and filter it based on what's good input and what's bad input. Because sometimes there are suggestions that just won't work or have already been brought up before and have been canceled previously and this other person wasn't aware. Now, having been in both a person offering up input and also being a director and having all this stuff happen, it's really important that it all goes through that one person. But on the flip side, me personally, I like to run my sets where I'm open to having that input from people who are around me because I myself can't always see everything. There are things, as human beings, we are limited by our own capacities. And so it is really valuable to make an environment or space where those suggestions and opinions are valued and appreciated, but they still need to go through the proper channels. So rather than voicing them out loud to where everyone can hear or directing them, directly to talent or to a producer or to a person, putting it through the director. And, sometimes that on a smaller project, that might be the director, the person who's overseeing everything. But on larger productions, that could be kind of sub-directors, whether it's a particular department who's got the department head or just someone else who's been appointed as being in charge and being that point person. And then that person can bring it to their director or their point person. So it all needs to filter through these proper channels because even though it might feel like it on the individual basis of, oh, I'm helping, I'm giving my input, it still can be really frustrating when you have a bunch of people doing that. It's kind of the too many cooks in the kitchen, if you will. Most people are familiar with that phrasing, but it really is true. When you have too many people offering up their input at a one-to-one or like at an equal level, where everyone's voice is being heard at the same volume, if you will, it can make for a very disordered and chaotic set. And ultimately, it slows things down because you have to make, rather than one person making these decisions on a smaller scale, you're now making these decisions in front of everybody and with everybody. And it can lead to arguments and it can lead to doing things multiple times or different ways rather than it just all flowing through that one person and it's their call if they're going to spend the extra time doing it or if they're going to, take that advice and change it up, whatever it might be. So I always just encourage people, the best thing to do is to get all that stuff established beforehand. And like I said, this is usually a smaller production problem, but it really helps if you just set it up at the very beginning, even prior to the shoot. You meet with your crew or other people who are going to be on set and you just say, hey, I want to hear what you guys have to say. I really appreciate your input and your feedback, but just do it, with me on the side rather than in front of everybody. And that'll just make sure that things flow well on set, tomorrow or next week or whenever it might be. So it's really important to have a director. And if there's people who disagree, I'd be really curious to hear why they think that verbal out loud group collaboration is valuable. I've never been in a situation where that has been a benefit. If it's a brainstorming session prior to, that's a different story, but I'm talking about on set etiquette. It really needs to flow through that one person.